Can you hear me? Am I audible? ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆಯಾ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್? ಕಾಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ರಿಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಸೇಜಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಹಿಯರ್ ಅಂತಿದೆ. Yeah. See, due to the problem in the Wi-Fi, I could not log in time. It's already 10:41. ಇವಾಗ ಆವಾಗಲೇ 10:41 ಆಗಿದೆ. Yes, coming to the first hour, like in today's class, I'll be dealing with one of the important texts called Paradise Lost by John Milton. You have that text. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? Students, can you hear me? Hello? If I am audible, that's okay. Yeah. As I told you, in today's class, I'll be dealing with one of the important texts called Paradise Lost by John Milton. In that text, Paradise Lost is in 12 volumes. Totally, it's in 12 volumes. But fortunately, we have prescribed only book 1 for you. Book 1 or volume 1 for you. There are 12 volumes. Paradise Lost is written by John Milton. John Milton was was a famous poet. Even today, he is a famous English poet, and he was called as a Puritan poet. A Puritan poet, a more religious poet. The age means the period between 1625. The period between 1625 to 1660 is called as the age of Milton. It's called as the age of Milton. Paradise Lost is an epic. It's an epic poem. It's an epic poem. What do you mean by epic? Epic means it's a long narrative poem and a long narrative book that consists of what? That consists of the history of a nation that represents the history of the entire civilization. We too in India have two great epics called Ramayana and Mahabharata, and even Greeks too had two great epics called Odyssey and Iliad, written by Homer. Again, John Milton was immensely influenced or impressed by Homer and Virgil. Virgil and Homer influenced John Milton, and John Milton had an ambition of writing an epic. Of all the forms of literature, there are so many genres of literature. Starting from poetry. You have novels, you have dramas, plays, you have essays, you have short stories, isn't it? Even in poems, you have so many types of poems. You have elegies, you have odes, you have sonnets, isn't it? And even in plays, you have so many types: romantic comedies, you have tragedies, you have historical plays, isn't it? So there are so many types of genres in literature. ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಪ್ರಕಾರಗಳಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಎಪಿಕ್ ಕೂಡ, ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಕಾರ. ಸೊ ಎಪಿಕ್ is also one of the category, one of the genre, 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 one of the genre in literature, isn't it? ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ. ಸೊ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ 2 ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ ಇದೆ. ಯಾವುದು? ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮಹಾಭಾರತ. ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಾಲ್ಮೀಕಿ ಬರೆದಂಥ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಮತ್ತು ವ್ಯಾಸಮುನಿ ಬರೆದಂಥ ಮಹಾಭಾರತ. 2 great epics. So 2 great epics represent the story of our entire civilization. So whatever the examples we give today, In our day-to-day routine life, we give the examples from Mahabharata, the examples from Ramayana, isn't it? If somebody, we compare some people with Shakuni, we compare some people with Dharmaraya, isn't it? So there are so many characters that we pick from Mahabharata, comparing those characters to our day-to-day routine. Again, as an example for our routine characters in our daily life. So what I mean to say is they have become part and parcel of our life. So epics represent our entire the story of our entire civilization. The heroes of those epics represent our civilization. So Rama in Ramayana, when it comes to Ramayana, Rama is considered as Maryada Purushottama. Maryada Purushottama, isn't it? So we consider Rama as a standing example, for what? For being so loyal to his wife. Even Sita is considered as, again, Sita Agni Pariksha, Sita's Agni Pariksha, that particular incident, again, showing loyalty towards her husband, even though she has been kidnapped by Ravana, isn't it? Ravana also has some noble qualities in Ramayana, isn't it? So those characters have become part and parcel of our life. Part and parcel of our life. ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದ ಭಾಗವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹಾಸು ಹೊಕ್ಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ, isn't it? So ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಬ್ಬ ಸಾಹಿತಿಗೆ, let it be any literarian, again, writing an epic is a gigantic task. It's like meditating on Mount Everest on Mount Everest. Again, there are so many hilly terrains, there are so many mountains in the Himalayan range, but reaching the toppest peak in the world, that is Mount Everest, is the ambition of all the mountaineers, isn't it? So in the same way, Milton considered that writing an epic is the gigantic task which he always desired to take up. When it comes to English literature, Milton is compared with almost William Shakespeare. They stand head and shoulders. With each other. So when it comes to the quality of literature, when it comes to the language, when it comes to the topics that they have picked for literature, so they stand equal. So they are almost equal. So Milton was a Puritan. Puritan in the sense he was so religious. He was always religious, because that was the age when people lost interest in religion. They stopped going to church. They stopped worshipping gods because of the impact of industrialization, because of the impact of science, because of the impact of Renaissance movement, rebirth, revival. Man acquired so much of knowledge through science, through geographical discoveries, through astronomy. Man started to question the existence of God. People started to disbelieve in God. People started to stop going to churches. And that was the period when man was enlightened. 14th century, 15th century, 16th century, very, very crucial age in the history of mankind. And that is the reason why Milton thought that the time is quite ripened enough to take up a topic that is connected to religion, that is associated with religion, because he wanted to caution the mankind. What happens if you go against the will of God? If you go against the wish of God, what happens? So he wanted to caution, he wanted to keep the human beings or the mankind on high alert. So this is what is going to happen if you lose faith in God or religion. So he was strict. He's considered as strict and austere in religious conduct. He was so a religious pious in religion. He has John Milton has given so many best literary works to English literature. Let it be a work like On Shakespeare, Lycidas, even Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, Samson Agonis, and you have On the Morning of Christ's Nativity. Paradise Lost was written between 1658 to 1665, and the entire 12 volumes of Paradise Lost was published in the year 1667. So he wrote between 1658 to 1665. 1658 to 1665, but it was published 2 years later. That was in the year 1667. It was a crucial, it's considered as a restoration period. When it comes to the politics of England, it was King Charles II who restored James, in 1660. Poetical characteristics of Milton, his admiration for his predecessors. He declared Spenser was his master. Spenser was his master, approved Johnson's learned stock. At the same time, he paid homage. He paid homage to Shakespeare. Homage means respect to Shakespeare. He was immensely influenced by Shakespeare, Homer, and Virgil. Virgil. Greek literature is considered as a classical literature. Like Sanskrit literature in India is considered as the classical literature. Same wise, the same token, when it comes to European countries, they all consider Greek literature as the classical literature, as the sample role model literature. Greek literature is the sample role model literature. In the same way, in India, Sanskrit literature is the classical literature. All the other languages are influenced by Sanskrit, the language called Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the mother of all languages in India, isn't it? So Greek had an influence on all the other literatures of Europe. So they try to imitate Greek literature, the Greek masters. Homer wrote Iliad and Odyssey. The blind poet called Homer. Even in fact, John Milton also became blind at the crucial point of his age. At the age of 47 or 48, he lost his eyesight. He became blind. Then he wrote a poem called On His Blindness. On his blindness, where he questions God for making him blind. At the same time, his superb egoism centered around the single theme, namely the problem of morality. So almost all his works revolve around the theme called the problem of morality. He as a poet experienced conflict of oppressing forces, in his art. So oppressing forces means conflict between the oppressive forces, means on the other side you have paganism, and on the other side we have Christianity. ದೆವ್ವಗಳ ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ದೇವತೆಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದು, ದೇವರುಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದು. ದೆವ್ವಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡುವವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ದೆವ್ವಗಳ ಆರಾಧಕರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Okay, you'll read a book called Dr. Faustus, where Dr. Faustus follows the path of Lucifer. Okay, he worships Satan, the king of hell. Two conflicting opposing forces. So you will be in confusion which force to follow, whether to follow the force of paganism, ದೆವ್ವಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಥವಾ ದೇವತೆಗಳನ್ನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಗೊಂದಲ ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, there are people who do not believe in God. That doesn't mean that they worship devils or ghosts or beasts, isn't it? So Shakespeare and Milton are the two poets who stand head and shoulders above all the other English poets. He adds Renaissance culture or love of beauty and the tremendous what earnestness of a Puritan in his writings. At the same time, the four of the great influences on English prosody is Chaucer. English, again, when it comes to prose literature, there are four great writers in English literature, prose. When it comes to Gadya Sahitya bere, Padya Sahitya bere. Prosody means Gadya Sahitya, prose. Okay, there are four great people who worked a lot in English literature on prose. Particularly, you have Spencer, you have Chaucer, you have Shakespeare, and the other side you have Milton. And at the same time, Milton, as a Puritan, possessed what? A tremendous moral fervor. Since his early youth, he felt that he had a great purpose to accomplish. To accomplish, he had a noble. So he always felt that he wants to achieve something great. So he was given birth by the God to accomplish something great, something big, some bigger task. On the other side, he wanted to write poetry in the service of God. Service of God. God is the creator. So if you want to please God, how can you please God? By serving God. So as a poet, how can he serve God? By writing works, by writing some literary works on praising the glory of God. Praising the glory of God. ಸೊ ದೇವರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ದೇವರಂತ ಸೃಷ್ಟಿಕರ್ತನಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಸೇವೆ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸೋದು. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಟು ಸರ್ವ್ ದ ಗಾಡ್ ಬೈ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ಗಾಡ್, praising his glory. So he wanted to write poetry in service of God. He wanted to serve his master or creator, that is God, with his inborn gift of poetry. With his inborn gift of poetry, he wanted to serve God. So ಇವನಿಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಏನು ಇಲ್ಲ. He was not a painter, he was not a musician, he was not a music composer. So as a poet, how can he serve God? As a poet, he can serve God only by writing poetry or poems. Praising the glory of God. That is how he can serve. He was not a musician or a music composer, not a painter. To serve God by adopting that form of creative art, okay, he was a poet. So the only art that he knew was poetry. By writing poems or epic poems, he wanted to serve God. That's none other than the creator or the master of all the human beings. Okay, so Paradise Lost was written with the explicit intention of vindicating the ways of God to men. So it is a poem based on the scripture. So scripture means what? So dharmika grantha. So dharmika granthaಗಳು ಹಲವಾರು ಇದೆ. We have so many scriptures, holy scriptures. We have Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is considered as the holy scripture among Hindus. We have Quran, we have Bible, isn't it? So different religions have different holy scriptures. So he borrowed the topic or the material. He borrowed the topic or the material from the holy scripture called Bible for the book, for the again literary adventure that he is going to adapt now or follow. So as I told you, it has been described again as a dream of a Puritan who has fallen asleep over his Bible. So he has kept Bible as the pillow. So he has fallen over he has slept over the Bible, and Am I visible now? Hello? Please drop in some of the comments like if I am visible, like it's well and good. Am I audible and visible? Okay, fine. No, as I was telling, Milton's Paradise Lost is the greatest epic poem in English literature. It's the greatest epic. It's the first epic. ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಪ್ಯಾರಡೈಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ 12 volumes as I told you. Milton's Paradise Lost is the greatest epic poem. It's the greatest epic poem in English literature. Indeed, with its sublime imagery, its harmonious verse, its titanic background of heaven, hell, and earth, limitless void lies between earth. It is unsurpassed in any literature. No, Milton is trying to again connect between heaven, hell, earth, heaven, hell, and earth. You see, the background it's of greater magnitude. The size of this work is of greater magnitude. So, who is the hero of this work? It's the entire mankind. There is no particular hero. It is not God. It is not Satan. It is not Satan or God who is the hero of this great work. It is the entire mankind. Milton's Paradise Lost, let me repeat, is the greatest epic poem. It's the greatest epic poem. Somebody has commented, hello sir, can you discuss on some important chapters to read because notes are bulky and not understanding. Madam, this is online class. You cannot ask such questions. Reason is, if you have any doubt regarding the chapters regarding the text that you are reading, you can always call us. So we cannot just discuss some of the important chapters here in online classes. So within the given hour, within the given time, we have to discuss the entire text. Entire text. Time is very short. Time is running out. So I hope you understand our problem. Again, with all the technical glitches, problems that we are facing in the Wi-Fi and the internet connection. So I'm sorry. I cannot, like, if you have any problem regarding the text that we have prescribed, the syllabus that you are reading, please call us, talk to us, feel free. And if you have any doubt regarding the text that we have taught in the class, let it be in online or offline mode, you can always call us. My number is very much there in the website, in the faculty blog. Okay, again, you can pick the number and call me at any time. No issues, okay? Regarding the discussion on syllabus, you can call me or call anybody of our, any of us, any of our colleagues on any given point of time. Okay, so as I was telling you, the background, the setting is, who is the hero? Mankind is the hero. Entire mankind is the hero, because in this book, he is speaking about the fall of man, Manushana Patana, the fall of man. That is what the first disobedience of man. The first disobedience of man. What are the key issues that he is discussing? First one is the fall of man, and the second one is the first disobedience of man. So because of the first disobedience of man, again, man lost the place in paradise, isn't it? And what else? It is the mankind who is the hero, isn't it? It is not the God or the Satan. Again, even though he wants to glorify the strength or the might of God, on the other side, he always wanted to show that how poor, how pity the mankind can be. What will be the position of man if he goes against the will of God, against the wish of God? So As I told you, this book has got all the epic qualities. The most probable question that may appear in exam on this particular text is discuss the epic qualities that you see in Paradise Lost. So what are the epic qualities? The epic qualities, so let us try to know what is an epic, first of all. So an epic is a long poem. Let me give you the exact definition. An epic is a long poem, typically one derived from ancient oral tradition. Ancient oral tradition, okay, narrating the deeds and adventures of heroic legendary figures, past history of a nation. So, usually, an epic consists of what? The past history of a civilization or a nation. And the entire epic speaks about the story of a hero or a legendary figure like Rama. In Ramayana, it is Rama. It comes to Mahabharata, it is the Krishna who is the hero. Isn't it? It is the Krishna who is the hero. When it comes to Odyssey, Iliad and Odyssey, you will see Ulysses. Ulysses is considered as the hero. Ulysses represents the entire Greek culture, Greek civilization. Isn't it? So, then what are the primary features of an epic? So, what do you see? What are the primary features of an epic? So, you have to solve this important question. So, what are the primary features of an epic? Because you will be having one important question, that is, what is an epic? So describe means bring out the salient features of an epic. So for an epic, I gave you the definition. So an epic is a long poem, typically one derived from ancient oral tradition. So the story is derived from ancient oral tradition. Oral means usually ಪದಗಳು, ಜಾನಪದ ಗೀತೆಗಳು, ಜಾನಪದ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಯಿಂದ ಬಾಯಿಗೆ, ಕಿವಿಯಿಂದ ಕಿವಿಗೆ ಆ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯಗಳು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ, ಹಾಡಿನ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ತಲೆಮಾರಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ತಲೆಮಾರಿಗೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಓರಲ್ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನ್. ಸೊ ಟಿಪಿಕಲಿ ಅಗೇನ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ derived from ancient oral tradition, okay, narrating the deeds and adventures of a hero or the legendary figure. Again, an epic normally tells the past history of a nation. So what is the period of Ramayana? 5,000 years ago. So Ramayana might have happened 5,000 years ago. So when it comes to Mahabharata has the history of 3,000 years. You can see Krishna's Vrindavana submerged in the water of Arabian Sea near Gujarat. Okay, so Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are the history. They are the history of India. Though they are considered as mythologies because of not having concrete proof. So the stories which do not have concrete proofs are called as mythologies. But Ramayana and Mahabharata are part of our history. Even today you can find Rama Setu connecting between Sri Lanka and India. Isn't it? So there are places which are referred in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Those places do still exist in India. Isn't it? And we speak about those characters even today. So what are the basic salient features of an epic? The first salient feature is an epic should have a theme of national importance. An epic should have a theme of national importance. So it is Dharma Vijaya over Adharma. It's Dharma winning, being victorious over Adharma. That is what you see in Mahabharata. So Pandavas stand for Dharma and Kauravas stand for Adharma. So Adharmada Virudha Jaya Sadhisiddu yadu Dharma. Krishna stands towards Dharma. Okay, against Adharma. The fight is against Adharma. So an epic should have a theme of national importance. An epic is the narrative in verse in which heroic actions are related in an elevated style. Elevated style. So you see in Ramayana and Mahabharata, again, even in Mahabharata, Arjuna picks that Pashupatashra. Pashupatashra is given, that ultimate weapon is given by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva to Arjuna, only to use at the crucial juncture, isn't it? So you see a poet, what? Doing what? In his narration, he tries to elevate. So too many hyperboles used. Hyperbole, you can call it a French term. Hyperbole means too much of exaggeration. Elevated style. So elevate means to appease the readers. Because they are the characters who stand above the humanity. They are supernatural characters. So Rama and Krishna, they stand as a supernatural characters. Isn't it? Supernatural characters, Vishnu Chakra. So Vishnu Chakra, Krishna means Vishnu Chakra. Isn't it? So again, they are all historical characters who have been made as gods by our own poets. They are given elevation, exaggeration. Okay, so an epic should have a theme of universality and a true faithful mirror of life. An epic should have a theme of universality and it should mirror the true represent. It should represent this true life, true life. In Mahabharata, again, the theme is universal. Dharmada Vijaya against Adharma. Okay, because the topic of an epic should be of universal, should be of universal, means should give a universal message. The message is for entire mankind. So again, the message given in Ramayana and Mahabharata, the messages given in Ramayana and Mahabharata is meant for entire mankind. It's not only meant for Indians. You can see even foreigners reading those two epics. So we also have the habit of reading the epics from many of the Indians read the epics of Greeks. That is Iliad and Odyssey. Iliad and Odyssey. So there is no geographical restriction, boundary restriction for an epic because the topic of an epic is universal. The message an epic gives is universal. Got it? It should also have an encyclopedic quality in it, distilling the essence of all the religions, philosophical and political, and even scientific bearing of its time. So an epic should what? Should qualify the test of time. Should qualify the test of time. Even in 21st century, we use the examples of again characters, examples. Again, we use characters of Ramayana and Mahabharata as examples in our day-to-day life. Isn't it? We speak about Kurukshetra. We speak about, yeah, you can, sir, while writing answers, can we write these comparison regarding an Indian epic and European epic? Please, you can. When it comes to, again, you can compare an Indian epic with European epic because you will be speaking about the basic salient features of an epic. While using while discussing the salient features, you can use some of the again qualities of epics that you see in our culture, in our again Indian civilization, that is Ramayana and Mahabharata, isn't it? So nothing wrong. You can, but you should not be means you should not waste your time just on that. Don't deviate from the topic. You just use that as an example. You can always bring in as an example. Got it? So, and it's completely successful. It is Can you hear me? See, I lost the connection. I lost the connection, and I'm sorry, I'm helpless. It's continuously again giving trouble. The internet, and also there are some issues in connectivity, internet connection, and also this new app. I don't know how it operates. Uh, there are some issues here. Sorry to sorry for such interruptions. And as I was telling you, I was discussing about some key issues about an epic, salient features of an epic. As I was telling you, the setting of an epic should be vast in space, and the scope visiting underworld and also other worlds. So there is no limitation when it comes to the scope limitations or the vastness or the space when it comes to an epic. And the style of writing is often elevated, even ceremonial. The style of writing is elevated. So too many figures or speeches. See, figures or speeches, ಅಲಂಕಾರಗಳನ್ನ ತುಂಬಾ ಯಥೇಚ್ಛವಾಗಿ ಬಳಸ್ತಾರೆ ಕವಿಗಳು when it comes to an epic. The action consists of deeds of valor or superhuman courage. So the actions that you see in an epic is of what? Superhuman courage, valor when it comes to bravery. Okay, when it comes to uh, strength, bravery, you can't even imagine. They are all superhuman. So Hanuman, when it comes to a character like Hanuman in Ramayana, is superhuman character, supernatural. He is above normal. You can say above normal. No, you can't. You can't reach Lanka in one leap. Like Hanuman, and you can't bring in the Sanjeevani mountain from Himalayas like Hanuman. Okay, because he can't make out which is the Sanjeevani plant, and he brings in the entire mountain, isn't it? Okay, you can't do all those deeds. The actions are elevated. They are superhuman. They're all having superhuman courage. You cannot follow them. You cannot follow those actions or deeds. We normal human beings cannot think of. But one thing you should not forget, that a writer intentionally makes these characters as superhuman characters. The reason is to give that elevation, to give that kind of impression in the mind of reader. You should be scared. You should be feared. You should be feared. While reading the deeds or actions of those characters. These are some of the basic features of an epic. So I think I'm still having another 10 minutes. I don't think I'll complete this text within this hour. What I'll do is I'll continue in the next hour also. Okay, means not next hour, in the next session. Okay, if you don't mind, can I continue the same text in the next session also? Because due to the technical glitches and the frequent interruptions, I could not complete the entire text. I haven't even started the text. I was speaking about Milton. Till now, I spoke about Milton. Okay, till now I spoke about Milton and his greatness and the basic qualities of an epic. I also gave you the definition of an epic. Okay, in the next class, I'll be dealing with in the next session, in the next class of yours, I'll be dealing with the text, Paradise Lost, Book 1. Okay, so if it is possible, I'll try to pick up or take up another text if I have sufficient time in the next session for you. I'll take up another text. Okay, so pardon me, forgive me for the interruptions. So the fault lies not with me. Okay, but still, even I was feeling discomfort, and it was again this mode of platform or this mode of teaching is not at all happy for anybody, even for teachers. Again, it isn't. We also don't feel good teaching in this kind of platform, but we are helpless. We have to adapt to the technology because we are in the era of transition, and one more thing that is from 19th of this month, that is April 19th to 25th or 26th, we are having offline classes in Mysore. Offline classes in Mysore. Please make it possible. If it is possible for you, if you are not working, if you are free, if you are having sufficient time, you please make sure that you can attend the offline classes also in Mysore. Okay, we'll be having offline classes in Mysore. So till now, I have given the introduction. Mysore in campus. So classes will be held in campus. Okay, in campus within KSOU campus. So here itself, so the classes, so you try to reach the campus by 9 a.m. on 19th. So the classes will go on till 25th of 25th or 26th of this month. I think it will be of 7 days contact classes, offline classes. So that's another information for you. So my contact number is. I'll give you my contact number on the last day. Okay, uh, it's available in the website, but still, if you want, you get it from the website. I'll give it later on the last day of my contact list. Okay, so it's a war to West. It's a vast topic. Again, it has taken for 7 years for Milton to complete this work, and even to discuss book one or volume one in 1 hour. It's highly impossible to give justification for this work in 1 hour is highly impossible. But still, I've made my again, best effort. I've tried my best or given best effort to jot down some of the important points which can be helpful for you in the exam. So as of now, I have discussed about Milton, given introduction to Milton and his greatness. I have also given definition of an epic. What do you mean by an epic? I gave you so many examples of different epics. I also spoke about the salient features of an epic because in exam we'll be having a question on what are the salient features of an epic and does Paradise Lost has those epic qualities in it. But that question is one of the most probable question. So in the next hour, I'll be continuing with the same text. Till that time, take care. All the best. Yeah, I will receive your call. Don't worry. Okay, but don't annoy me with some so stupid questions. Okay, please give me the time. I'll meet you in the next hour because I have class for second hour now in the next session. Okay, thank you one and all.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. In this session, I'm going to talk about John Donne. He is a metaphysical poet, and he can be considered as the father of metaphysical poetry in English literature. Hope I'm audible enough. So, in this session, since this is my first session, I'm talking about metaphysical poetry and his John Donne's, especially four poems of him, have been prescribed for you this semester. Starting with the Good Morrow, the canonization, valediction, forbidding mourning, and lastly, I think Death Be Not Proud. So let me start with metaphysical. What do you mean by metaphysical poetry? Maybe at your graduation level, you might have read John Donne's poetry or Herbert poetry or Marvel poetry. In this semester, you are going to read three major, especially two major metaphysical poets. And so let me start with what is metaphysical poetry? And this poetry is a group of poems that share common characteristics. They're all highly intellectualized, and they use rather strange imagery, and they are known for using conceits. Conceits means far-fetched images. So they use strange imagery and unique kind of imagery in their poems, and they use frequent paradox and contain extremely complicated thought. So, literary critic and poet Samuel Johnson, for the first time, he coined the term metaphysical poetry in his book Lives of the Most Eminent English Poets, which was published in 1781. Okay, in this book, Samuel Johnson wrote about these poets. These are the group of poets in 17th century British period, which included John Donne, Andrew Marvell, George Herbert, Richard Croshaw, and Henry Vaughan. So these are the major metaphysical poets we can study in English literature. So Samuel Johnson, he is the first person who coined the term and who noticed their contribution to the field of English literature. At the same time, he also noted how these poets shared many common characteristics, especially ones of wit and elaborate style, which means an intelligent way of producing the things through their writings. Then, this is the background. Then, what does metaphysical mean? So, this word metaphysical means beyond the physical world. Okay, the word meta means beyond or after. So, the literal translation of metaphysical is after the physical world or beyond the physical world. So basically, metaphysics deals with questions that cannot be explained by science. Hope you're all following me. I am audible enough. Yeah. This is, I told you in the very introduction of my class that this topic I have chosen from Hardcore 1.1 under the title English Literature from Chaucer to Milton. There, in the block 3, you have this poet, John Donne. He is a poet and he is considered as the father of metaphysical poetry. Hope you are following me and let me not waste my time. So let me move on to the metaphysical poetry. So I have already told you that the word metaphysical means beyond the physical world. So basically these poets, especially metaphysics, they deal with questions that cannot be explained by science. And so this questions the nature of reality in a philosophical way. Here are some common metaphysical questions, like they say, does God exist? And is there a difference between the way things appear to us and the way they really are? And essentially, what is the difference between reality and perception? These are the questions they raise in their poetry. Okay, so is everything that happens already predetermined? And if so, then which is a free choice of non existent? Or questions like, is consciousness limited to the brain itself? Or metaphysics, this is a broad area of research, or it's a metaphysics is a kind of branch of poetry. They can cover a broad range of topics from religious to consciousness. However, all the questions about metaphysics ponder the nature of reality, And of course, there is no one correct answers to any of these questions. And these are the basic questions metaphysics is about: exploration or philosophy, not about just science or maths. Then, what is the characteristics of metaphysical poetry? So, the group of metaphysical poets that I have already mentioned earlier is obviously not only the poets or philosophers or writers, they deal with metaphysical questions. There are other more specific characteristics that prompted Samuel Johnson to place the 17th century poets together. This metaphysical poetry emerged or originated or flourished in the 17th century. So, who identified this group of poets? Samuel Johnson, in his Lives of the Books, I have already mentioned. So, perhaps the most common characteristics is that a metaphysical poetry contained large doses of wit, knowledge. So, in fact, that although the poets were examining serious questions about the existence of God or whether a human could possibly perceive the world, the poets were sure to ponder those many questions with a touch of humor. Okay. Then metaphysical poetry also sought to shock the reader and uh, wake him up or from his or her moral or normal existence in order to question the unquestionable things. So the poetry often mixed with ordinary speech and with paradoxes and puns. So the results were very strange, comparing unlikely things such as lover to a compass. This is called conceit. I told you, conceits are the far-fetched images. John Donne he uses in Valediction Forbidding Mourning, where he compares lovers to a compass, okay, and or the soul to a drop of dew. See, a soul can be compared to a drop of dew. So these are the weird or some kind of unique comparisons were called conceits. Hope you're following. I'm not fast. If you have any doubts, you can drop me a message in a chat box so that I can answer your queries at the end of my session. Yeah, in the because I have to cover all the four poems in an hour, so I have to complete this. So I was talking about conceits, right? Yeah. So these are the conceits were very well knitted, far-fetched imageries and very well explained by these metaphysical poets. So metaphysical poetry also explored a few common themes. They all had a religious sentiment. Though they questions the existence of God, but still they had a kind of religious sentiment. In addition, many of the poems explored the theme of carpe diem. Carpe diem, it's a concept which means seize the day. And you should what, buy a book by M.H. Abrams, Literary Terms, okay, a glossary of literary terms. Then that book will explain all these literary concepts. So here the poems, the metaphysical poems explore the theme of carpe diem, which means seize the day, and investigates the humanity of life. So, one great way to analyze metaphysical poetry is to consider how the poems are about both thought and feelings. Because this in this kind of poetry, we could finally able to see the blend of both thoughts and feelings, and we have to think about it. And it will pay a way for us to think beyond this poetry, like it's beyond, as they say that beyond the physical world. And how could you possibly write a poem about the existence of God if you didn't have some emotional reaction to such an enormous, life altering questions? So, metaphysical poetry investigates the between relationship between rational or logical argument on the one hand and the intuition or mysticism on the other hand, so which is often depicted in with a sensuous and sensual detail in metaphysical poetry, which is considered highly ambiguous due to high intellect and knowledge of metaphysical poets, because only those people or the poets Only those who have high intellectual and highly sensible, they can only produce this kind of poetry, dealing with what sensibility or mysticism on the one hand, and the rational or logical on the other hand. So this is all about metaphysical poetry. And let me move on to John Donne's first poem, Good Morrow. There, John Donne, after careful analysis or of his own ideas, thoughts, and feelings, he decided to write this poem, Good Morrow. So, in this poem, he compares his former life with present and concludes that present life is better than previous one. So through arguments and through arguments and his own explanation, he substantiates his stance. Therefore, whole poem is based on arguments. And please, you should visit the text or the text of the poem, then only you can able to understand. So he also quotes some examples from the past and how he had lived his past, and how he feels that this is the present life is far better than his past. So mostly especially these metaphysical poets, they belong to mythological these things, they because, and based on that they wish to write their poetry. John Donne links these examples with his own life. Normally all the poets they do like that. So it seems that he is trying to prove something different or something unique he wants to write. So perhaps he wants to prove the superiority of love over other material things of life. And somewhere after reading his poems, we can able to see that he is though he's a metaphysical poet, some kind of the romanticism is there, it prevails in his poetry. So that's why he is trying to prove something, that that superiority of love over other things of life. So it is one of the major characteristics of John Donne's poetry, that he considers love the greatest thing in the whole world, and it can win even the enemies. Okay, so however, pleasure of love is dependent beloved, he says, because he thinks not only a lover should be a very perfect, prominent, honest guy, and at the same time, love is depends on both the lover and the beloved. Beloved is also equally important. So this is what John Donne thinks in his poetry and writes in his poetry. So one can only feel the beauty of love if he has a real, sincere, loyal love, or at the same time his partner also should be a loyal, honest, and sincere. I'm not saying this, your poet is saying this. And so, in order to determine the beauty of love, and the beauty of love which is portrayed in Donne's poetry, we should read that poem, The Good Morrow. And it is your job, because you have to go through it. Just I am giving a brief introduction and his poetry, poetic style in a nutshell form. And I'm just trying to help you to understand John Donne's poetry. So the title is very catchy title, The Good Morrow. And if you go through this poem, if you start analyzing this poem into in a deeper sense, you have to acknowledge the proper meaning of good morrow. Generally, the name of poems originates three meanings. One is good morrow means the following day or the time following an event, and the near future. It also means a fresh morning. For example, good morning we say, right? Because you just want to feel fresh and rejuvenate your strength in the morning itself. And if we combine all these meanings, then we come to the conclusion that John Donne is talking about the freshness, as I told you, and which is present in his future life. And he just not only talks about it, but also is hopeful about his upcoming life will be very soothing, and it may suit him. Previous life of John Donne was waste, according to him, he says. So, but the present life and the future life will not be the same, according to him, because he is highly hopeful of his future and present life. And another meaning of the title we can analyze or we can think in the other way, like which is derived from the good motto, is that the poet wants to forget his past life, right? He wants to start a fresh life, and it seems that he has awakened from a long sleep, long slumber. Now he wants to start a new life with a new passion and hope. So, in the first stanza of the poem, we have a poet but also a lover. And as a lover, John Donne expresses his gratitude towards the life which he currently is spending. And he, along with his beloved, laments his previous life. And before falling in love, they were leading a tasteless life. He says like that. So, because when he starts writing this poem, he feels the difference between his lonely life and his present life, because now he has a very loyal beloved. So both of them, he says, both of them, a lover and a beloved, they feel they laments and they feel sad because their previous life was not at all tasteful. So it was tasteless. They were unaware about the beauty of life, which is only possible if they have the power of love in their hands. So past days of their lives were rustic and childish, according to John Donne. So he then quotes the incident of seven sleepers of death. He compares his life to the seven sleepers of Den. Again, he goes back to mythology to develop his poetry, and it is an incident from the myth, but is also mentioned in the Bible. You, if you have read Bible, you know this incident, seven sleepers of Den. So he, that seven persons took shelter in a cave, and they slept there for more than 200 years. But when they woke up, they did not realize the duration of their sleep. Thus, they could not understand what happened to them during those 200 years. Okay, so the poet and his beloved have also spent a life like the seven sleepers of Den, and they had no knowledge about life and love, what had taken place during that period, and they were in a long sleep. Okay, and that John Donne is putting his life and life of seven sleepers in a juxtaposition. So he compares his life with theirs and finds no dissimilarity in them. He feels that he also like similar to that kind of seven sleepers. And in his previous life, John Donne may have found a beauty in woman, but he doesn't consider it as a truth, and it was a fancy, and it was but a dream of thee. He says like this in the poem. He mentions that beauty of a woman, it was like a dream of thee. Thee means you. So their beauty was just the reflection of his beloved. Thus, in the first stanza, in this poem, John Donne has begun his love analysis along with the scrutiny of his past life. Then let us see what happens in the second stanza. There, we have a depth analysis of the lover's world, and there is a sharp contrast between the world of love and the world of reality. And this is what the technique or skill of metaphysical lies. Okay, because I told you they have to what portray the real, rational, logic world on the other hand, and on the love and other feelings on the first hand. Okay, so many people are attached to material things of life, but in Don's eyes, true happiness lies within love. So we readers can also witness development of thought in this poem. The poet has changed his thinking now, and he has wasted his previous life. And although it is painful, yet the poet wants to forget it completely as finally, and he sees no more darkness in his life because he has a beloved now, and he has somebody to share his feelings and share his sadness and happy moments, everything. So poet's life is as far away from irrationality, jealousy, and suspicion. So he says a true love should not have these kind of things: the jealousy, suspicion, irrational. It will be free from all these three feelings. So if anything is present in his life, then that thing is love, according to John Donne. And then in third stanza, there is an enchantment of the poem, and enchantment, a kind of enchantment in this particular stanza, because while appreciating the beauty of his own world where he lives, John Donne talks about unity and his face shine in the eyes of his beloved. He says that I could able to find my face in the eyes of beloved because she is so loyal, sincere. And similarly, his beloved's face also shines in his eyes, which means that both of them have a true mindset and same wavelengths and same feelings, like that. And more about, above all, they have a compatibility. And he writes in this way: My face in thine eye, and thine in my appears. In the third stanza. So the poet and his beloved have created a complete world from their love, and but there is no possibility of decay in it. So geographical world or the physical world is temporary, and it has a shape of north and declining west, and whereas the poet's world is eternal. He says that, like Shakespeare, he also says love is eternal, right? There is no end for love, or there is no death for love, true love. So their love is immortal, and there is oneness in their love. And here, in this final stanza of this poem, he says that the good morrow, he says the poet is making a clear analysis of equality and unity. And so, this is all about the first poem, The Good Morrow. And let us see what he talks about the spirituality of love. Because by making use of imagery, he just tries to portray the true love with a spiritual touch. Okay, so the poet talks about spirituality of love, and there are some references and images in the poem, and which are from the myths background, and which have a mythological background, like Seven Sleepers of Den, which he had taken from Bible, right? So some examples of images used in the poem are hemisphere, geographical world, discoverers, Seven Sleepers of Den, and room, and so on. These are the words, or these are the imageries he tries to build his poem upon. Hope you are following me. So, moreover, Dunn's imagery is not at all imaginative, nor is it supernatural. He exemplifies his point of view from real life examples and real life experiences. For instance, maps, rooms, and seas are known to everyone, right? We know, we have seen. So, he takes physical examples from the physical world, and he beautifies his poetry. And thus, imagery of John Donne is simple yet forceful. And next important poem is The Canonization. Hope you understand, or you may be thorough with uh, the word, or maybe familiar with the word canonization. Uh, so, here in this poem, he talks about a person or a speaker who speculates upon the prospects of his being canonized. Okay, so he says that he speculates upon the prospect of his being canonized. He is using the term in the religious sense. Canonized, canonization, it's a religious term. So, but mischievously, by implying he wants to, uh, what we can say, that he wants to portray again the life of himself and his lover will be elevated to the level of saints, canonization, which means as both of them, especially both the lover and the beloved, they feels that they are elevated to the level of saints because they love as they do. He is somewhat like a being playful, witty, and just a shade blasphemous. From the beginning, the tone is provocative in the poem. For God's sake, hold your tongue and let me love, and or chide my palsy, or my gout, or my 5 gray hairs, or ruined fortune, and flaunt with wealth your state, your mind with arts improve, and take you a course, get you a place. This is how he writes in the poem, and this is the kind of style of writing of John Donne, and how beautifully he writes, and the rhythmatic of the words and the rhyming scheme of words also very interesting and very catchy. So, a poem which takes a theological term for its subtitle, the canonization, and then he begins with a blasphemy. You know the meaning of blasphemy, right? One who talks up against the religious, against his own religion. So, for God's sake, it is clearly playing a number of ironic games with its readers. We know dramatically. The speaker appears exasperated at being continually reprimanded for his amorous life, and so here he responds not by apologizing for it, but rather by mischievously pleading for the social world at large to permit love to exist in some small corner of its realm, and devalued and frowned upon though it be. Like, for this is a world that values everything above love, according to him. And because in this world, in this competitive world, we what is important? According to everyone, money is important. That's why he says in the 17th century itself, this world values everything above than true feelings, love. And it is a word of affairs, according to him. And John Donne says this is very true, 10% true, that this is a world of affairs in every sense but the romantic. So, nevertheless, the speaker is able to, who is the speaker here in this poem? John Donne himself. So, nevertheless, the speaker is able to imply that this system of value is questionable. For this world of affairs is clearly one of sycophancy, cupidity, and hypocrisy. And with wealth, your state, your mind with arts improve. I take your course. The speaker advises his friend, captious friend, but for what purpose? Get you a place, he says. Get you a place for the purpose of self aggrandizement. And that's why he says that for which one must fawn upon the great and observe his honor or his grace and flatter a judge or a bishop, for these are men. Why he wants to flatter a judge or a bishop? Because in those century, church was the supreme authority, and all everything church used to decide in those century, right? We are talking about that puritanism, where he just wants to flatter a judge through his poem. Why? Or a bishop? Because these are the men who can offer patronage to their sycophants. Okay, so most of all, fawn upon the monarch or the king's real or his stamped face I contemplate. And he says like that. So admire and be seen to admire the king or the bishop or what you really want to gaze upon, money, the king's stamped face, which is your real object of desire. So he says, not only now we feel money is important, and even since many centuries, money has been taken power, position, money, or wealth, or asset. They have taken a supreme place and supreme importance. So the theme here is plainly satirical, and he is attacking the supremacy of church, right? We can say, and he is also attacking the power of monarch, right? King means the monarch or the power, and so it is. The theme is highly satirical, and it has had sufficient sting to silence the listener. And because the speaker is not obliged to order him to hold his tongue again, right? Because he says the poem begins with hold your tongue, because you don't have freedom to speak or you share your feelings. That's why we should hold our tongue when the power or the a certain situation does not permit you to speak, and when your when your rights have been curbed, you are not able to resist or raise your voice. So consequently, he takes the opportunity to develop the satire in stanzas 2. In the second stanza, he talks about, in the first stanza he talks about, he starts with the blasphemy and the questioning the power, monarchy or the bishop or whatever, and he wants to what expose the true color of the those who are in power those days. So in the second stanza he wants to talk about his what sufficient the silence of the listener and the silence of the people. Consequently, he takes the opportunity to develop the satire. Obviously, the lover of power, the love of power, the love of wealth, and the love of military or judicial conquest of his time. And he implies that this is the kind of love abroad in this world. And the speaker's adoption of a tone of what we can say resigned agreement about this state of affairs, as much to say that, as I see your point, greed or envy and power for its own sake. And these are extremely important things. They motivate this society, right? What are the three things which motivate the society? Greed, envy, or power. We should agree, right? Yeah, this is true, 10% true. So but at least my romantic love, he says that his romantic love does not materially interfere with them, and I love her, but greed and envy and love of gain and exploitation still thrive. So why should you complain? The irony that is very heavy indeed in stanza 2, where the harmless reporter of the lover sighs and tears and colds and heats and so on. So it's a mixed feelings, we can blend of feelings, both sighs and tears and colds and grumbling or hot heats and so on, we can able to see in second stanza. And so on, familiar from the courtly love tradition, and which is sarcastically played off against the realities of a vulgar, mean and exploitative world of his time. So finally, this is a famous poem by John Donne, where he aspired to make his love for his beloved divine and immortal, as to be declared as saints. Because he says that out of, though we are living in a selfish world or self-centered world, we have to elevate our position like a saints. Saints, they never bullied by or what we can say all the power, and they never carry all those things, and they will be away from all this power, envious or what we can say money and so on. So that's why he wants to immortalize themselves, himself as well as his beloved. And that's why the term canonization means the formal process through which one is declared as saint. Now, we should let us see how the stanza-wise analysis of this poem has been made to convey how a lover should be or should become saints out of these in what we according to him, the corrupted world. And he also, this poem, in this poem, like any other metaphysical poem, we can able to see that there is a dramatic opening, like how Shakespeare begins his every first scene of his play. So this poem, like any other metaphysical poem, which opens abruptly with a dramatic opening, the speaker is found to command another companion besides his beloved to stop bothering them. And the speaker also argues that his love besides his beloved without any hindrance from him. So he says that we should be away from greediness and enviousness and all that power thirsty quality. So he also suggests him that he might as well make fun of his gray hairs or his misfortune, because he says that what does that gray hair stands for? Getting aged, right? Yeah, getting old, like that. So while upgrading his own position with wealth and refine his mind by involving in different arts, the poet suggests that his companion to pursue an academic career by seeking different disciplines and getting a course or pay homage to the king, and either himself or his replica stamped on his currency. So, in the last line of this stanza, especially the speaker says that he might do whatever he pleases to do, and he leave him and also leaves him and in a series of silent contemplation as to what could have been affected by their love, and he wonders as to who could have been harmed by their love. And he begins with a series of questions trying to come to a solution. He, because just to have question is not a big deal, and everybody has a question to ask, but how to solve your problems, and you should come up with a solution. So this is what John Donne is doing in this poem. He is not only raising questions but also tries to find solution for his questions or problems. So he inquires whether the heat of passion that fills his veins ever caused the epidemic of plague to break out. So it was that the great plague of the bubonic plague was caused because of the considerably warm weather that year, right? Great plague of London. It's a dark episode in the history of Europe, right? So it caused the rats aboard a ship to come out and litter the streets of London. So he says that everyone, what prevention is better than cure. So we should prevent something mishappen. What is going to happen soon, and what is going to cause the death. So they carried with them the germ of plague and spread it across the land. So London was declared under quarantine for that reason. The speaker feels that the soldiers are interested in wars, and so are lawyers and in quarrelsome men, because they see their profit there, not in they don't see profit while fighting on the borders. So that's why even how soldiers can also bullied by that kind of politics or power, money, everything. But here the speaker doesn't want his beloved to be interested only in love, but also should know the general knowledge of the society. So in the third stanza, we have the speaker discusses the strangeness of the nature of their love. The speaker suddenly becomes careless and announces that he is ready to be called by any name by others, like because he and his beloved are made thus by love. So he suggests himself to be called as a fly, right? And his beloved another fly. And they circle around with the insects like attitude to perish in the candle flame. And if they fly around the flame, what happens? They themselves, they what invite death, right? So he calls himself and his beloved the candle too. And first he compares themselves to fly, secondly to the candle, and how the candle melt with the heat of their love, like that even they are also melting by the heat of their love. So he finds an eagle and a dove in them. Okay, these are the imageries you should understand and you should remember. So fly, candle, then eagle and dove. He finds an eagle and a dove within in them. The dove is symbolic of feminine grace and meekness, and finally he announces that they resemble the mysterious phoenix, and whose is itself a mystery, and it is believed to rise from its ashes after every 2000 years, right? And that's why phoenix bird is well known for, because it rises from its ashes after 2000 years. But the speaker feels that their love is more mysterious than the riddles asked by the mythological or mythical phoenix. And like the phoenix, they die and rise again and become strange and mysterious because their love is still present even after so many years, like that. So in the fourth stanza, we have the speaker discerns the possibilities of making their love immortal or eternal. He says that if he and his beloved cannot live their life in love, they can at least die, he says. And if they can't live, they can die. And if no proper burial to given to their bodies, and followed by tombs and hearsay, was a song of laments sung by someone's death. Okay, somewhat like this is what's that called? Dirge, right? Yeah. So then they would satisfy themselves with verses or poetry. And if their love is not proved strong enough to be placed in the history or a chronicle, then they will find a place for their love in sonnet or 14-line poems. 14, actually sonnet is a 14 line poem, right? So, and thus make their love immortal, like how he says that if they can't live happily, and they should die, and why they can be together in death at least. And because even after their death, their love story can be sung in a form like a poem, or it will be placed in the history or in somewhere in a chronicle. And just as an urn can contain the ashes of dead instead of a half acre land, so also they will find a place in hymns according to him. See how positive, what kind of positive vibes we could able to see in him, and how optimist he is, right? So he says that at least they can find a place in hymns, and everybody will come together to announce that they have been canonized for their love. Okay, actually, canonized means to become a father or to become a priest. The canonization, this is a religious ceremony, takes place. But even to become a saints in love, he wants to canonize not only himself but also both of them. So now, as told before, canonization is the formal process through which one attains sainthood. Thus, the speaker attributes a sense of sacredness because he considers love is very sacred thing, and he also tries to add the religiosity by calling themselves saints in love. And finally, the last stanza sums up all the apprehensions of the speaker or a poet discussed in the previous stanzas, that the speaker announces in a positive tone that they would be remembered for their love by posterity, because they should attain a sainthood. They should be sincere, they should be what a transparent, right? So people shall invoke them for their exemplary love. They would sing praises for the speaker and his beloved, that their love was either the hermitage. See how he compares his love to that of a sainthood and a sacredness or a religiosity, right? So, such was the spirituality in their love. People would regret that their love has none of the qualities of the love of the speaker and his beloved have. So he feels that the public should be inspired by us, and they should feel jealous of us, like how we have lived our life altogether with the sanctity, right? So they would recall the peaceful nature of the speaker's love and would regret at their own love, which has turned horrid. Their love was so grand that it made the soul and spirit of the world reduce into each other's eyes and like mirrors. So they reflected each other's love. And he says, no, in the previous poem, I could able to see and see you in my see me in your eyes, and even your image is what constantly you could able to see in mine. So this is how their love was so grand. It's proved, and like mirrors, they reflected each other's love. The greatness of their love exemplified them as saints, and everybody began to epitomize them. So countries, towns, and courts, he says, countries, towns, and courts, and places of interest and importance now seek a design, a pattern of their love. So this is all about the canonization, okay, where how Dunn incorporates the Renaissance notion of human body as a microcosm into his love poetry. And during the Renaissance, how many people believed that the microcosmic human body mirrored the macrocosmic physical world. And this is how he has the Neoplatonic conception of love, where John Donne draws on the what um Neoplatonic conception of physical love and religious love as being two manifestations of the same impulse. So this kind of religious enlightenment and sexual ecstasy throughout his poetry, we could able to see in John Donne's poem, and especially how Donne imagines religious enlightenment as as a form of sexual ecstasy, and he parallels the sense of fulfillment to be derived from religious worship to the pleasure derived from the physical world. Okay, and this is what this is all about. The second point, the canonization, and where the poet tries to search for the one true valid action forbidding mourning. Do you have any doubts in this poem? so far what I have taught you. Hope you are listening to me and finding some queries. You write down somewhere, and later you can text me or you can drop a message in a chat box. Yeah, let me move on to the next poem, A Valediction Forbidding Mourning, where the speaker opens with an image of good men dying quietly. A valediction, forbidding mourning. The title itself, the answer or the theme, I can say, the lies in the very title itself. Very opening lines of the poem also talks about the image of good men dying quietly, softly, urging their souls to leave their bodies. So these virtuous deaths are so imperceptible that the dying men's friends disagree about whether or not the men have stopped breathing it. And it's all know that how very good human beings are having very short span of time to live on the earth, right? The speaker argues that he and the lover, he is bidding farewell to, should take care or take these deaths as model and part ways silently. So they should give in to the temptation to weep and sigh excessively. In fact, grieving so openly would degrade their private love by broadcasting it to ordinary people. And natural early disturbances such as earthquakes, hurt, or scares human beings, but still ordinary people notice these events happening and one what do. Okay, so however, the movements of the heavens, while being larger and more significant, go unnoticed by most of the people. And the speaker and his lover, on the other hand, see all these four poems prescribed for you this semester. It's they are all about the love affairs, or it also concentrate on the true love of the speaker, where in this poem also the speaker and his lover on the other hand experience a more rare and special kind of bond between them. They can't even understand it themselves, but they are linked mentally. Okay, psychologically they are linked and certain of one another, or on a non-physical plane. Because of this, it matters less to them when their bodies are apart. So the souls of the lovers are unified by love. Although the speaker must leave, their souls will not be broken apart, which means that he just tries to portray their love is eternal, and he wants to make their love is immortal. And if, he also continues to say that if their souls are in fact individual, they are nevertheless linked in the way the legs of a drawing compass are linked. I told you the conceit, a very well, what kind of well knitted concept, or uh, yeah, this is imagery has been used by John Donne in this poem, where he compares the souls of two lovers to a compass, because the soul of the lover is like the stationary foot of the compass, and which does not appear to move itself but actually does respond to the other foot's movement, which means that though they are away, their mind and heart centers at one place. So this stationary compass foot sits in the center of a paper. When the other compass foot moves further away, the stationary foot changes its angle to lean in that direction to support the other leg. Got it? So as if longing to be nearer of to its partner. So as the moving foot returns, closing the compass, again the stationary foot stands straight again and seeming alert and excited to meet its companion. This is how he compares the true souls of lovers to a compass. So the speaker's lover, he argues, will be like his stationary foot, while he himself must travel a circuitous, indirect route, and she is a fixed one, and she has a his beloved will be having a fixed position, and also provides him some support and feels like to unite him soon and with the stability to create a perfect circle. And that's what he expects his beloved to support him to make a perfect life or being. So, in this poem, we have themes like love and distance, Okay, there are so many themes: love and distance, and physical love versus spiritual love. Though they are physically away, spiritually they are united and they are tagged like that. And time is running short because 12:30 again. I have one more class for the second year student, second semester student. So just hope I have completed. I have reached you. The symbols, or sorry, the themes here is physical love versus spiritual love, and the love and distance, and few more themes you could able to find only if you read uh, through John Donne's poetry and read everything what is prescribed for you and what are the symbols he has used: spears and circles. Okay, and the speaker of this poem is also very important, and who is someone living on a journey, bidding farewell to a lover who must stay at home. So he says that though I'm physically away from you, and psychologically, mentally, I will be with you, or spiritually. So the genders of the speaker and the lover are never explicitly mentioned in this poem, nor are any of their specific characteristics. And however, we know that this poem was written on the occasion of John Donne's parting from his wife on diplomatic business. Basically, all the poets or all the writers, playwrights, they try to write something based on their own life experiences, right? So however, we know that this poem was written on the occasion when John Donne parts from his beloved, and it is fair to read the speaker as done it's himself and the lover as undone. So, the speaker's goal is to present an argument about how true lovers should handle separation and to reassure their love or promising attitude, his lover, that their love is capable of enduring their separation. One should have that endurance. And here, the speaker wants and expects or wishes his beloved to have that endurance to bear that separation. So he wants their love to be private, since he considered it as a high and special kind of love and a saintly love, as we had discussed in canonization, too scared to be observed by others. So, explaining the nature of their love heads, their love, which leads to the speaker to the poem's central conceit, in which he describes their two souls as the twin feet of a drawing compass. I told you. And Death Be Not Proud, it is also a very important poem where the speaker directly addresses and personifies death, and telling it not to be arrogant, because some people find death scary and intimidating. In fact, death is neither of these things, because people don't really realize or really die when they die, when death or whom the speaker pities come to them, nor will the speaker truly die when death arrives for him. So, comparing death to the rest and sleep, which are like images of death, the speaker anticipates death to be even more pleasurable than these activities. So, I think time's up. In my next session tomorrow, I may continue with the last poem. Three poems I have completed. Last poem I'll continue in my next session. If you have any queries, you can ask me now. I'll give you 2 minutes time. Hope you understood. No questions, no queries. Yeah. Thank you.
Um, hope is the session clear? The visibility is okay. This is Dr. Nataraju from English department. Hope you all know about me. That I'm the chairman, Department of English, Karnataka State Open University. If the voice is clear, you can just send a message through your chat so that I get clarity, confirm that you're able to attend this session. Is this camera is clear? Is it all right? Is the voice is clear? Can anybody just send a message so that I just confirm we'll proceed with this class. Hope I believe that yes, you're able to listen it, and you're following it. And this is the first day online contact classes, online classes for this choice based credit system students, MA English. So this is the third hour, and so far you have learned a few texts, you understood some concept, some literary text and genre. Uh, that you're yeah yes, good, Kavita Smanjaka, Manjulakar, yes, thank you very much for your confirmation that you're able to listen this session. So this is the, as I told you, the first day. I welcome you all to this online platform, and this is the third hour. So far, you are, the familiar with some text, I believe, and you all learn a few texts. And in the first semester, so it is my the prime and utmost the duty to inform you about this first semester, the batch student, those who are studying in our university. And in the first semester, you have the five papers. Of course, you have written your assignments, you have sent to us, and we are going through those assignments. And remember, in the first semester, we have five outcore papers. The paper one is English literature from Chaucer to the Milton. Uh, Okay, and then we have in that paper the like Geoffrey Chaucer, the Canterbury Tales, and then John Bunyan, John Milton, and John Donne, and this 14th to 15th century writers. Like we have, the poets like George Herbert and John Donne and Matthew Arnold, and many other, the poets, Christopher Marlowe. In the first semester, in the first paper, I am going to talk about, the Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, and the general prologue by Geoffrey Chaucer. And these are the texts that I generally deal with in the classroom. And in the second paper, that we have the Shakespearean paper, the way we have introduced major classics like Macbeth, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, and The Merchant of Venice, and As You Like It, and other texts. The third paper, because I'm going to introduce you the paper that you're going to study. So once I just introduce the courses, the titles, I just get back to my today's lecture. On the today I'm going to talk about a mock epic, Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. Alexander Restoration period, and of course you are familiar by now because you have written your assignments and you have sent to us. So in the Restoration period, Restoration and 18th century English literature, the major writers like Henry Fielding, Daniel Defoe, and Jonathan Swift, and Oliver Goldsmith, and Alexander Pope, John Dryden, and Thomas Gray, William Congreve, and Sheridan. All the major writers of this, Restoration literature between 17th to 18th century writers, we have included all the mainstream, all the major writers of this period. I must tell you one thing, that you student, when you read the first semester study material, you people have to confirm first, which are the paper that you're going to study and which are the text and you're studying. That is the fundamental duty that all of you should confirm. The number one, that you should confirm which are the paper. I told you the first paper, English literature from Chaucer to Milton, and second is Shakespeare, the third, the Restoration and 18th century English literature, and the fourth paper, you're going to study that the Shakespearean sonnets and criticism, and the last paper, comparative drama. And the last is interdisciplinary course, the open elective course that you have selected the respective, the list is given by the university. And today, in my first hour, the first day, I would like to take up this paper that is a hardcore 1.3, that is Restoration and 18th century English literature. So in this text, this is the text that I'm going to teach you today. The text is, the Alexander Pope, the Rape of the Lock. This is a poem. It is a mock poem. It is a mock heroic poem. I must tell you what is this mock heroic poem. See, we have this concept called literary genre. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಪ್ರಕಾರಗಳು ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೇವೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನಾವೆಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್, poetry, prose, play, essay, short story. These are called as literary genre, the ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಪ್ರಕಾರಗಳು. So in this is epic. Epic is also a poem. ಮಹಾಕಾವ್ಯ ಅಂತ ನೀವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So whereas this Rep of the Lock is considered as mock heroic poem, mock epic. What is this mock epic? Epic in the sense it has some sort of the standard form, conventional epic, conventional form, how a poem should be written. There should be an invocation. Epic in the sense there'll be the kind of the battle. There'll be a kind of the heroic qualities, characters are introduced, whereas in the mock epic it is entirely reverse to it. Criticize this heroic style of mock epic, epic style. So epic convention, what we call, it is not followed in mock epic. There is a concept called criticizing, the parody, the concept of the one person against another. The using a concept called satirizing. Satirizing in the sense vidambanatmakavagi, you're going to criticize a person. Whom? The so-called aristocracy society. So Alexander Pope, he is going to criticize the entire aristocratic society, the people who called themselves, those who branded themselves as a heroic quality. Because here is a character that is the Belinda, who is a narcissist, who thinks that, who claims herself that she has the ultimate beauty. So there is also another character called Lord Baron, who is the one who offended her. How does he offend? How did he hurt her? So that is the entire story. So here there is a concept called ridiculing, criticizing, satirizing some sort of a sect of community called aristocracy through this poem. So I must tell you, this Alexander Pope, he gives this title called the Rape of the Lock. Why does he use this term? Very metaphorically, the rape of the lock. Lock in the sense, the air. 1 minute. So this is the story. That is, a Rape of the Lock has some historical background. What is historical background? So what made Alexander Pope to write this poem? This is the background. I read out. Listen. The story is, its origin has been told in 1711. Robert, the seventh Lord Peter, he's an young man. It is an historical background. It is a truth which it is a incident took place. And what is an incident? I'm just narrating to you people. So the Lord Peter, a young man of 22, had greatly offended his kinswoman, a fellow woman. He hurted her. How? Her name is Mistress Arabella Farmer. So Lord Peter, he offended Arabella Farmer by cutting a lock of her hair. He cuts a lock of her hair. Why did he do it? Because she did not accept his proposal. Because this lady, she thinks that the leaving a lock here has itself, it is a great symbol, a sign of a woman's beauty. So he decided to cut the lock of Arabella Farmer. It happened in really. It is a realistic, incident. He's in a way he is giving a message to the people, whole clan of people, saying that you are not supposed to worry about all these trivial things. So here, Alexander Pope, he's criticizing, this concept called the act of cutting a log as a matter of a trivial incident, other than those Kshullaka incident. But why this Arabella farmer? Why these people as going to the glorifying out of nothing? So this is the historical background. That means that he cuts a lock of her hair. She was already an acknowledged beauty. So Arabella Farmer, she herself has this acknowledged beauty. She considered that she's the most beautiful woman. So what happened? A close friend of Lord Peter. These two women, these two person, the people, that's a Lord Peter and Arabella Farmer, they quarreled one another. There should be somebody who could convince these people. So the family friend of, the Lord Peter, called a friend of Pope, Mr. John Carey. So here is a person called John Carey. He requested Alexander Pope, why don't you write a poem which which subdues, which pacifies, this quarrel between these two people. You just write a poem. So Alexander Pope, he wrote this poem as a solution, has the problem which, it's a solution to this quarrel between these two people. And he said that the whole incident, it is laughed at. Andre, there is an incident called there is nothing, the matter is just trivial. But whereas Arabella Firma, she thinks that that is the great offensive to her. Cutting the lock of a lady created a huge, havoc, that created a big terror. There are some lines she screams such a way that to restore her lock again. Just give back my lock again. So this is the incident that developed the entire poem. So I must tell you, there are this character in this poem, the rape of the lock, the character called the Lord Peter. In this poem we have Lord Baron. Sorry, Lord Baron. He's the character, and then we have the Belinda and the Baron. In the real life, the Baron is Lord Peter, and Belinda in the real life she's Arabella Firma. In the poem, they're the Baron and the Belinda, these two characters. And we have other character, we have other some supernatural elements, some spirits are there. The name is also given here. We have, let me tell you, they are sylph, they're the salamander, the gnomes, and Ariel. So that information you can get in the study material, and we have given you the study material with an extensive analysis, with an extensive description. So I told you the Belinda and the Baron, and the spirits like salamanders, nymphs, gnomes, and sylphs, and Ariel. These three are the supernatural characters in the poem. So what is this poem is all about? How does this poem begin with? So, I will tell you this little introduction to the poem. So, the rape of the lock describes a trivial incident, that is cutting a lock of a lady of Arabella Farmer. I told you. So here, the Lord Peter, the Lord Baron, of a lady which is offended this, and both the family, they are in the loggerhead, both the family, they are in the quarrel, because here the somebody has to pacify the incident, to give a kind of the complacency on the samadhana parsakoskara. So here the Jan Carroll requested Alexander Pope to write a poem, and he's written this. So what happens? So this is how the poem begins. I told you that the characters. This is the story of the entire poem. So I want you to understand this very clearly. The thematic analysis, so-called the entire story in a nutshell. I tell the story in a nutshell, and you student, you understand this, and you can get into the study material the way we have given you the law description, and you read and understand that. So the story of the rape of the log begins like this. How does it begin? The poem begins like this. This is very important, and you people have to write in the exam. This is a very famous line. What dire offense? This is the canto number 1. The poem has how many cantos it has. The five cantos. There are five divisions in the poem. So the first division, the first canto, this is begins like this: what dire offense from the amorous causes the springs, what mighty contents rise from the trivial things. So the poem begins that some offense has been taken place out of a trivial thing. Some people, this aristocracy people, for them this small issue, the trivial issue, the kshulaka vichara has become, they glorified it. They made it, the bigger issue. And here the poet is ridiculing it, he's going to satirizing it. And so I told you, this is the suggestion by the Thomas Carroll. Sorry, he's the John Carroll too. He's the one who requested Alexander Pope to write the poem so that they should be convinced. So how does Alexander Pope, he convinces both the Lord Baron and as well as Arabella Farmer. So this is the important issue. Let us see whether is he able to convince them. Does he able to solve the problems that we come across in this poem? So the poem begins like this: at the noon, when the sun was accustomed to the waken, the both the lapdogs of lovers, the Belinda was still asleep. When the poem begins, the Belinda, she's still in a sleep. She's sleeping. Okay, this is how very creatively Alexander Pope he uses this poem. So when the poem begins, because remember that he is giving a a kind of a reply to this both the people. At the moment, probably once they read the poem, they should be understand that what has happened. It is just a small issues. There is nothing to be worried about. Worried about it. So the time is noon. It is a noon time, whereas Belinda she's still sleeping. And what happened? So here, the Belinda was still sleeping, and she dreamed that the Ariel appeared to whisper the praises of her beauty in her ear. There is one supernatural element. I told you, Ariel. Ariel comes on, tells to the ears of Belinda while she is sleeping. Hope you are getting my point. Are you able to follow this story? Some of you can just say yes, that if you are able to follow it. If the voice is clear, is everything is fine, you can just a message so that I'll get confirmed. So when the poem begins, the epilogue, the poem begins, the poem of five cantos. In the first canto, we understand that it is a noon, it is an afternoon, whereas still the Belinda are sleeping, and then Ariel comes, and she was dreaming somebody. She was dreaming, and Ariel appeared to whisper to her ear, and he the praises of beauty. And Ariel's, he glorified her beauty, and she is a narcissist. She enjoys if somebody glorify her, if somebody praises her beauty, and she enjoys it. And she dreamed that the Ariel appeared to whisper praise of her beauty in her ear, and Ariel said that he had been sent to protect her because something dreadful going to happen. There is one place called Hampton Court. Remember, Hampton Court is a place where all the aristocrat people they go and they assemble. They discuss about all the day-to-day activities, and there, because after one she wake up, she has to go to Hampton Court. Okay, and here Ariel he is going to give some instruction, some caution, saying that some dreadful thing is going to happen. ಒಂದು ಕಂಟಕ, ಒಂದು ವಿಪತ್ತು, ಒಂದು ಗಂಡಾಂತರ, ಒಂದು the some dreadful things is going to happen to you, Belinda. You be careful anta. Ariel he comes and whispers in the ears of Belinda. He said that he is being sent to protect her because some dreadful he did not know that was about to befall her. He was warned her, beware of jealousy, the pride, and above all men. There is something going to happen to you by men, and so that you should be very careful, because something dreadful is going to happen in this life. This is what he's going to suggest. So if you go to canto 1, you have this line, because this line is very, very important. What is that? He says that warned by the self, beware of all, and but most beware of man. Some is going to cause you some problem. ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಂದ, ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೊಂದು ವಿಪತ್ತು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಬಿ ವರಿಡ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಸೊ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಟೇಕನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಪ್ರಿಕಾಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬಿ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್, ಬಿ ವಾಚ್ಫುಲ್. ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ Ariel, a spirit, a supernatural element, he came and he whispers in the ears of the Belinda, and beware of all, and most beware of men. This is how, here, Ariel warned Belinda. This is how the poem begins. Let us see what happens further. After Ariel had vanished, so after Ariel comes and he gives some caution, precaution, and he simply flew away. It went. And there is another Ariel called Shock. It is a Belinda's, these supernatural are there to protect the Belinda. That you should keep in your mind. There are many supernatural elements. They come and give a precaution, a warning to the Belinda. They're not visible, in fact. They just come in a sense, and they give some instruction, and they go. So what happened here? Belinda's, Ariel vanished, and even the Shock is also give some warning to Belinda, and they went. So he awakened her by lapping of his tongue, the rousing herself. So suddenly the Belinda woke up because she could sense that something is going to happen. Dreadful is going to happen. And then he also warned her to be, that's all right, that's done. And what happened here? And the Belinda on a bed, because there are many people who send letter to Belinda in glorifying her beauty. The moment she wakes up from her bed, she immediately takes up some letter, and she reads that all the letters are sent by men. They're sent by some people who glorify the beauties of Belinda because she is such a beautiful woman. And what does she do here? And the Belinda spied a letter on a bed. After she read it, she promptly forget everything that Ariel the warned her. Because the letter, the moment she read that, because everybody they glorified her beauty, and immediately she forgets. She's happy because we also have some people. They have this fascination. If somebody praise the beauty, they forget the actual incident. They forget their reasonability. Probably they go in the world of fancy, and they're fascinated by that. And here, the Belinda, she is affected by the praising by the people, because she read the letter and she enjoys that. And after that she read it, she promptly forgot everything that Ariel warned her. She could have reminded of what Ariel told, but she forgot, including the warnings of beware of all and most beware of men. Which course we are learning? It's wonderful. This is 1.3. I told you in the beginning itself. This text is Restoration and 18th Century English Literature, 1.3 paper. I'm teaching today the Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. It's a very important poem. It is a mock epic. It is called as epic poem. What I suggest to you, you people have to listen the class. Some of you are asking the page number. Don't do all that. I think you all have written your assignment and sent to us already. And yes, it is 1.3, the Rape of the Lock, a poem by Alexander Pope. Just listen the class. Once you listen the class, you go to your study material and you get this poem. Then you read and reread. And there is also classes start from 19th till 25th. The offline classes in the headquarters, KSOU. You can also attend the classes for any better clarity and clarification to be done. So now I want you to listen to the class and understand it, and go to study material, and you have thorough knowledge about the text, because we have given you a very extensive information about this poem. Because I'm giving you a very thematic analysis, I'm giving you a better story so that you can read the additional study material for the better criticism and the background, the historical background of the text. And then coming back to this poem. So what happened? The Belinda, I told you, once she gets up from the bed and she reads the letter, and after that she goes to the Hampton Court. It's a place where all aristocrat people are gathered. And then what happens? Why do they go? Because I told you, they go and talk all mundane matters, all day-to-day life. Because this is the kind of a fascination to all elite people, the people of this affluence family. So Belinda, she aided by her maid Betty, and she began to make her the dressing very well. Because the moment she goes to Hampton Court, the large number of people are gathered, all are rich people, and she can't go simply. She has to dress up in a way that to attract all the people. So she's dressed up in a such a way that, and she presented before the mirror, and she glorified her own beauty, and she forgot what Ariel had cautioned her. Now, the after that, they have to go to the Hampton Court. How do they go? They have to travel a boat journey. On what? On River Thames. They have to start a journey from the River Thames on a boat, and then she goes to Hampton Court. Okay, and then she go to Hampton Court, and so the sun set. I mean, the sun. In the it is. I told you this is a noon. The sun is very bright. The journey started. The journey across the sky witness its brilliant. Journey. The Belinda, she's started her journey on River Thames with her friends to Hampton Court to just confront all her friends. So all the eyes were upon her. So everybody looking at her. The whole people are looking at Belinda, and like the true, the kind of. Okay, and some of you saying it's mandatory in the club flying classes. So for all these clarifications, don't send through message. This is the time where you have to enjoy the class and you listen the class. And offline class, not mandate, but it is it is always better if you attend the classes and do attend the classes. That's what I can say. Okay, in the headquarters. So now I'm in the in the midway through of this analysis. You can clarify some of your doubts, okay, with respect to the text, okay, and this fine. So the journey started. They started the journey on the River Thames, and they all are looking at Belinda here. But what happened? There is one character I told you, the Lord Peter. I remember this is the story. So, is the voice is clear? Some of you can just say that. Some of you are saying that the voice is not clear. There is no. Okay, probably here and there some technical glitch, some technical problem. I hope you just understand this is an online platform. Could be voice variations. So, if the voice is clear, you can just drop me a message so that gives me a confirmation, just so that I can prolong with this class. So Lord Peter, remember that Alexander Pope, and he's creating a story. Yes, good. Some of you say the voice is clear. So Alexander Pope, he's creating this story to just give a message, because in the real life there are two opponents, that is Arabella Farmer and Lord Peter. Probably once they read this poem, they think that whatever we have created the quarrel between us, this is no use of. They may laugh at the entire incident. Okay, that is the core question. That is how Alexander Pope, he is writing this poem such a way, probably in a way it will give a message to them. So Lord Peter, he is one of the Belinda suitors. He is one of the person who intend to propose Belinda. He's there to propose Belinda because he literally loved her. So, and he's the one who admired a lock of her hair, and he would have had it by fair means or foul means. Belinda has this lock here, the curly hair. If you look at the old films in Kannada cinema industry, could be like the actress Kalpana and other actress. If you look at them, they have this curly hair here. So a woman thinks that in case if they have this curly hair, they consider as a very beautiful woman. So Lord Peter, he decided to cut the lock. By fair or foul means, I should have this. I want this curly hair. So he decided in his mind to cut his lock, because he proposed Belinda a number of times, but whereas she did not agree, she did not approve of his proposal. And in a way, in the heart of heart, Lord Peter has this, the kind of attitude to take a revenge, because this is a lady who did not. Okay, fine. Some of you responded. I'm happy about it. So, Lord Peter, one of Belinda's suitors, admired a lock of her hair and vowed that he would have it by fair means or foul means. He decided to have it. Probably when you approach your when you write your examination, a question to the answer, and we have given you a lot of criticism in the study material. So I want you to understand the story, understand the text first, then you think about it. And probably the my prime importance, I give you this importance to the novel, I mean the entire story of the text, so that once you, if you get that information, and probably you will understand the study material. Okay, but I strongly advise you people to just read this text first, and then you read the study material. Probably my classroom, it is just an alternative for you people, but your study is important. Okay, that is a place you keep in your mind. So what happened? He decided to have it by fair of all means. Fair of all means in the sense, however it is, the I should get this. Thank you, some of your enjoying the classes. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for this. So set was he on getting the log that was before the sun rose that morning. He had built an altar to the god of love. So he decided, there is he decided to get the log by evening. So the log should be in my hand by evening, he decided. And there'll be one god of love. He, in fact, he sincerely put his prayer to give him the strength to cut the log. So these are the things which we normally never come across. So probably when you or me, when you look at this kind of attitude or approach, we say that there is nothing serious. So probably the same way, Arabella Farmer and Lord Peter, the moment they read this poem, they think that it is all trivial issues. So that is, you shouldn't remember. They shouldn't. You should always remember. You shouldn't forget that. So what happened? He put his prayer to the God of love, and on whatever the trophies, whatever the letter that he has received from people, everything he put before the God, and he's praying for the God to give him the strength to, because cutting the lock is not so easy thing, isn't it? Going to a, I mean, approaching to a woman and going to a lady and who refuses love proposal, and he's taking a scissor and cutting the lock. It is not so simple thing. It is really a very toughest job for a man. So he's gaining strength. He's putting a lot of prayer to the God. So what happened? And that morning he had built an altar to the God of love and had thrown on all the trophies he received and letters that he's received from people. And see, somebody sent him a lot of letters, but he did not approve of that. But he's a man, he's in search of somebody else, so he's loving somebody else. Okay, and then what happens? And gradually this man is getting the strength, the meanwhile asking love to give him soon the praise he wanted, to let him keep it for a longer time, but love granted him only off of his prayer. So the moment he put forth his prayers, the God give him all his strength. Yes, you go and we give you the strength so that you can get what you aspire for, what you intended to do, but not complete power, the half of it. Everyone except Ariel seemed to be happy during the course on the Thames. So I told you the journey started from the river Thames, and all of them are gathered in the Hampton Court, and there everybody is happy, everyone is enjoying except Ariel. ಯಾಕಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏರಿಯಲ್ ತುಂಬಾ ವಾರ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾನೆ. Beware of all and most beware of men. This is the famous line. You people have to remember. This is a very famous line in this poem, and probably the moment you utter this line, people remember the poem. This is the line from the Rape of the Lock. So Ariel is not seem to be happy, because you know that Belinda, she's the forgetting the earthly matters. She is forgetting her rationale. That Ariel reminded me about some dreadful is going to happen to me, but she's not she's not vigilant about it. She's not so careful about it, and whereas she's enjoying the beauty, enjoying the reading the letters and how people are appreciating her and all that, just mundane substances. So everyone except Ariel seemed happy during the course on the Thames. That spirit summoned his aides and reminded them that their duty was to watch over the Belinda, fair Belinda. I told you there are some spirits. I told you salamanders, sylph, gnome, and And some spirits are there. I described, I told you there are four important spirits. Yes, salamanders, nymphs, gnomes, and sylphs. These are the spellings. You can get them in the study book, study material itself. So I'm just telling. So what happened? Ariel decided, forget about if Belinda forgets. I should create a team. I inform all these supernatural elements to just go and give a caution to Belinda one after another, one after another, to that so that she'll be very careful. She'll be reminded of. And she called all the spirits. Self, you have to guard Belinda's, and you should be a watch god. And another to protect Belinda's lock, you should be watch god. It's almost like the army, almost like some the gods who are there to protect people. In the same way, he's going to appoint some spirits, one person for this, one person for Belinda's log, one person for the Belinda's beauty, and there'll be no change at all. So all of them are there to protect Belinda's beauty. And then Ariel himself was to guard Belinda's, the whole, entire Belinda. So there'll be no problem will take place to her. And 50 sylphs were dispatched to watch over Belinda's dress. There are 50 sylphs were appointed to protect Belinda's dress, because the day she's wearing the dress, it is a very precious and such a beautiful, and something will happen, so that the appointed 50 sylph to protect Belinda's dress in order to protect her chastity, because men should not attack her. Any negligent sylph warned Ariel would be punished bitterly. So here Ariel warned the sylph, 50 sylph, sylphs, if something dreadful happens, you will be punished severely. There'll be a punishment to you people. That's what Ariel warned, because despite of Belinda's negligence, and he decided with he determined to take protect Belinda, because some dreadful is going to happen. Okay, so what happened after the journey on the Thames? The Belinda, accompanied by Lord Peter, and the rest of the party member, visited one of the places nearby London. I told you this is the Hampton Court. They all have gathered, and then the party begins, because they go to the Hampton Court with some purpose. Probably they enjoy party. Probably they have talk one another. All that. They Belinda decided to play ombre. This is a very important. OMBRE. Ombre ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಈ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಗೇಮ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ, ಅದು ಸ್ಪ್ಯಾನಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಫೇಮಸ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಒಂದು ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅರಿಸ್ಟೋಕ್ರಸಿ ಪೀಪಲ್, ದೋಸ್ ಹು ಗ್ಯಾದರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಹ್ಯಾಂಪ್ಟನ್ ಕೋರ್ಟ್, ಆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್ ದೇ ಡಿಸೈಡೆಡ್ ಟು ಪ್ಲೇ ದಿಸ್ a card game called Ombre. Because you have an alternative card games. I don't want to name them. This is called as Lord Peter and other people, the rest of the members, they decided to play Ombre. Ombre is a Spanish card game, and with two of his suitors, including Lord Peter's, and decided to play this card game. Invisible sylphs sat under important cards to protect Belinda. For example, this is just imagine this is a card. I'm holding this card, okay, playing with this, and 50 sylphs are standing here. They're not visible. They're invisible, but they are guiding Belinda to a play better way, so that she will win. Because if a man win the game, just imagine the plight of a woman. Do you think they tolerate? They may destroy, they may won't accept, they ask them to play it again. But if women win, what happened? She enjoys it such a way that there'll be no further disturbance. That is ultimate. So that kind of the trivial attitude of a man and a woman you come across in this poem. But just to say that ultimate what matters is virtue. There is a line in the poem, the last fragment of the poem. There is one beautiful line that is the virtue is the one which wins the merit. Sadguna ಅನ್ನೋದು the what you call as the civic nature. The best attitude is the one which will win, but not these kind of trivial issues. So that is a message that is told by Clarissa. That I tell you the fragment of my lecture. There is one the famous line: charms strike the sight, but merit wins the soul. This line you can get it in the exam in the study material. It is there. I repeat again: charms strike the sight, because the beauty, it is there for the visibility, but merit wins the soul. But merit, but the the virtues which is always there within us. So the inner beauty is important. So that is a message told by the Clarissa of end of the poem. So that you should remember. So now I was telling this. So she decided to play the card game, and everybody there, and she played. Invisible Self sat on the important cards to protect Belinda, to guiding Belinda. You have to move this card first so that you will win. See, such a protection is giving to her. And after that, what happened? The coffee was served after the game. So the game is over. So the coffee is served to everybody. The coffee is served to everybody. A Sylph guarded Belinda's dress to keep it from the being spotted. So the Sylph is very much careful. Yes, she has to guard, protect Belinda's dress. The fumes of coffee sharpened the Lord Peter's wits to the point where he taught new stratagems of the Belinda's lock. So here, once the card game is over, what happened? In the card game, the Belinda, she wins, and she wins the card game. And remember that she's enjoying it. She's and coffee was served to everybody, and Belinda was enjoying the cup of a coffee, and everybody enjoying the coffee, and because she win the game. And what happened? And Belinda, but whereas the Lord Peter, his ultimate game to win while cutting the lock. The Belinda's plan is to gain win over in Spanish card game, because that gives her kind of a the pride and the kind of what do you say, the victory, or as I yeah, if I say so in a single word, that gives her some reputation. That is important for her. But once she wins it, she enjoys, and she decided to give a treat to everybody. That is a coffee. She's coffee was served to everybody, and there but where the Belinda, he's forgetting are the cautions given by the sylphs and salamanders and the spirits. And whereas the Lord Peter is very much aware, Lord Byron, the Baron, is very much aware that he has to, plan to cut the lock of this Belinda. This is the right time for me to get this cut of the lock. And then the sylph, aware of Belinda's danger, attempted to warn her before Lord Peter could act, because Sylph understood that Lord Baron, he is going to do something to Belinda, and whereas she is completely forget in her happy world. ಹಾಗೆ ಗೆದ್ದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ she is forgetting the dangers that are going to happen to her. She forgets her. So you're not supposed to celebrate by losing your rationale. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಸೆಲೆಬ್ರೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಫೈಂಡ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಬೆಲಿಂಡಾ, ಶಿ ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ದಿಸ್ rationale, and she forgets that rationality. Yes, despite of my celebration, I should remember that yes, something is going to happen to me, but she forgets it and attempted to warn her before Lord Peter could act it. So Lord Peter, he decided to cut the lock, but as the lady bent her head over to have a cup of coffee, the moment she takes a cup of coffee, just imagine she takes a cup of coffee and she bent her head down like this. And whereas the moment she bent her head down, and this lock, it's hanging here, so he can take the scissor and he can just easily clip it off. He can cut it off. So she, the what happened? The moment the coffee was served to everybody, and even Ariel was unable to warn Belinda in the time, because she's enjoying. She took the coffee and she's enjoying. She's drinking it, whereas the lock is, hanging around. And this is the right time for Lord Peter to cut the lock. And he finds, yes, this is the right time for me to cut it. And even Ariel, he was unable to warn Belinda on time. And he takes a scissor, and because Lord Baron's his intention itself is to cut the lock, isn't it? But he's very much sure about it. It's firm about it. Whereas here, Belinda, she's forgetting. And here, in a way, Alexander Pope, he's ridiculing so bitterly these attitudes of men and women. How at times we lack our, rationality. And what happened at the rape of the lock? Rape in the sense he cuts the lock. So rape of the lock in the sense hair. The moment he cuts the log, she thinks that she lost her virginity, she lost her chastity. This is the line, the chastity. She thinks that she lost her chastity, and Belinda, shocked in horror, she's screaming. Lord Peter cried out in triumph. Lord Peter, he's screaming, yes, I could cut the log, and he's screaming a lot. Okay, and whereas she is in agony, and whereas she's bitterly she's unhappy with this, and she's there is one particular line where I have to read the line and to enjoy this. So what happened, she could cut the log, and the way the Belinda screams, the way the Belinda, that I must read out from the I'm looking some lines from the text. So there are important lines that I should read out to you people. Yes, there is some line which talks about how she expressed her, saddened tone that had not gone to the court. That I'll tell you in the noon session. Even in the afternoon, I have one more class, so I'll read out some important lines to you people so that you can write those lines in your examination. So what happened here? So Lord Peter cried out in triumph. So he because he got what he did, what he decided to get it, what he targeted. He praised the steel used in the scissor, comparing it with the metal of Greek swords that overcame the Trojan War. See, look at that. See, he comparing the scissor to a swords which could placed in the Trojan War. ಆ ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೀಕ್ ಟ್ರೋಜನ್ ವಾರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗೆದ್ದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಟ್ರೋಫಿಗೆ ಅವನು ಅದನ್ನ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಯಾವುದನ್ನ, ದ ಲಾಕ್ನ. So that is the kind of here the unnecessary the epic convention are used. It is a epic, it is a mock epic. It is completely against the epic conventions that you should remember. So what happened, he compares that the scissor to a Greek swords that overcame the Trojan wars. The Belinda's fury was an a contemptuous. It is a it is it creating the kind of a scornful. She's feeling that she had not had gone to, she would not have gone to this Hampton Court. ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋದೆ? It is the kind of the conflicting in her emotion. She developed this kind of the kind of a conflict in her mind that I should not have gone to this Hampton Court, and she thinks that she's lost her entire chastity. And by now, she's in a deep agony. She's in a utterly dejected, and she's screaming, she's crying because she's lost her hair. Because that is an important component for her beauty. ಆ ಹೇರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ. She lost her entire beauty, and she's screaming, she's shouting, and she's ready to quarrel between Baron. And whereas all the sylphs, all the Ariel, they wept bitterly and they flew away. Papa, they also tried the best. All the sylphs, the gnomes, and the salamanders, and the spirits, the 50 sylphs, all tried the best. They're guarding, they're giving caution to her. But despite, they could do nothing, because by then, Lord Peter, he could act. He was cutting the lock of Belinda, and Ariel wept bitterly and flew away. So now, there is another, that is Umbriel, a melancholy gnome and despair, to fly down to the center of the earth to find the gloomy cave of spleen. So here somebody has to console Belinda, because at present Belinda's condition is uncontrollable. Nobody can come and can subdue the agony of Belinda. So Umbriel, it is a gnome. It went into the cave of spleen under the earth, and he's bringing some bad tempers in a bag full. Look at that. These are the weapons using in this mock epic. Bad tempers and the source of every detestable quality in a human beings, including ill nature and ill affectionate. So Umbriel, he decided to go to the cave on the Pathalan, a cave of spleen, and he bring the bag full of what? Bag full of bad tempers. Bad tempers and detestable words and detestable qualities If giving all to Belinda, pouring on Belinda, she became even more strong so that she can revenge this person. She can use this bad temper and detestable quality, and she can just take a revenge. Now everything is there is nothing except the war. ಇವಾಗ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರ ನಡುವೆ ಒಂದು ವಾರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. There has to be a quarrel, battle has to be done. So now we are there at that juncture. Because in all the mock epic, in the end of the every mock epic, we have at last we have the battle between these people. So here Alexander Pope, he uses a one word called the battle between sexes. The battle between sexes, in the sense, the battle between man and a woman. So what kind of battle it is? It is a battle of mock battle, because the weapon they use in the actual battle, they use the swords. They use all kind of swords, so that they can fight with the enemies. But here, what are the objectives that you're using the weapons they're using is the bad tempers, the bag full of bad tempers, and pouring on her head, she gets strength and detestable quality, and so that she can use lot of the verbal, the bad words, so that to tarnish his image. So these kind of qualities, this is the mock heroic qualities. So, including ill nature and affectionate. So, Umbriel asked the queen to touch Belinda with a chagrin. You can just touch Belinda so that probably Belinda can control her anger. She can be, because her condition is something that, because the whole Hampton court is echoing her voice. And she screams, restore my log, get back my log, give it my log. But whereas Lord Peter, he he consider this is a trophy that he wins in a in a battle. So this is the trophy for him. This is the kind of the kind of the narration Alexander Pope used in the poem. So Umbriel asked the queen to touch Belinda with a chagrin, for he knew that if she were gloomy and melancholy, bad tempers would spread all over the world. And Splin granted Umbriel's request and collected a bag full of horrible things and gave to the Belinda, and so that she can get the power, and she can the win with she can fight with Lord Peter. So I do one thing. I just stop this class by now, because let us start the battle in the afternoon session. In the noon session, I have your class first semester between 3 to 4. 3 to 4, I'll complete this class. But the what I mean to say, what is this all about? So here we have this notion called. Let me come back to the poem, mock heroic poem. There is one component called didactic. What do you mean by didactic? In the sense, it is intended to teach, particularly in having moral instruction as ulterior motives. ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಬರ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. Take this line, didactic. You can even Google it. This poem, this mock heroic poem, it is a didactic in nature. It is there to construct. It is there to obstruct some message, to give it to the entire human society. So what is the, are you able to follow me here? Okay, if you're able to follow, just send a message here so that I am able to follow this. So I told you this entire poem, it is didactic, which means it is an intentionally written for what? To teach to the entire community of folk to have a moral instruction as an ulterior motive. So what ultimately matters is the moral. What is ultimately moral? What is a moral message here is that, so there should be something to be instruct. So there's something to be called as to message learning. There should be some message to the entire human people. That is ultimately what wins is virtues. The virtues is important. So this poem, we have this component called this character whoever we come across, that is a Baron, Belinda, and the salamanders. All of them are just a fictional characters. So using these fictional characters, ಈ ಒಂದು ಕಾಲ್ಪನಿಕ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಅಲೆಕ್ಸಾಂಡರ್ ಪೋಪ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಕತೆ ಕಟ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ಕತೆ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಅ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ Yes, somebody sent to teach the moral thing to the entire society. Yes, it is a message to all human class, human sect, human clan. That is, ultimately what matters is your, the virtues, your good deeds. So this lock, your beauty, it is not permanent. It is diminished. The beauty fades. So using these fictional characters, using this message, I mean, our character, I mean, our writer, that is Alexander Pope, he's giving a message to the entire the human people. It is a mock heroic poem, which was completely against the epic conventions. Okay, if there is a battle, there is a serious battle, whereas here there is no battle at all. It is a kind of the what do you call as the trivial quarreling, not a serious quarreling. There is no serious subject matter, and there is no prior here. So it against to the epic conventions. You can even go to there is one book called M.H. Abraham and a glossary of literary terms. Then you will get much more explanation on epic conventions. Okay, and this poem, it is based on a real incident. I told you there are two characters, that is Lord Peter and Arabella Firma of aristocracy society, and they are quarreled one another because he cut the lock of her. And Thomas Carroll, he's the one who requested, who is a family friend of Lord Peter, and he requested Alexander Pope. Pope, ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಪ್ಪ, ನಮ್ಮ these two people have quarreled one another. You just write a poem. That poem should give a message to these people. They think that yes, there is nothing wrong about it. There is not, not big thing had happened. It is still a trivial issue. So for which he writes this poem. And now I stopped the session where Belinda lost her lock, and in the afternoon session I just teach you the rest of the poem. And dear student, thank you very much for this session, and I'll meet you again in the noon session between 3 to 4. Okay. Any one or two question if you have, you can just send one question. I'll stop the session. So now it is 1:30 session for lunch. You all attended 3 hours class at a stretch, and okay, if there are no questions from your side, I just stop the session. Okay, you can just put forth one or two question if you have now. Thank you, people.